Welcome everyone to Foul Play episode 50. It is with sad news that I have to tell you that in just a few months' time, Heebie-Jeebie will be dead. He will have to be resting in a coffin 3 times his size because he will have to eat far too many waffles. As you know, this bet has been made, laid the stone, it cannot be changed, and so I am the past self talking about my future self's funeral because, as we're going to get into in a few minutes here, there's a player that rhymes with Barry that did extremely well in fantasy points, and man, I'd love to be excited about something like this. I will say this bet has kind of taken a bit of that fun out of it for me, but I am excited to discuss it. So, but rest in peace, or rest in one gigantic piece, which will be me.
Rest in globs.
Rest in glob.
Yeah,
Rest in entire pie.
You should have to live stream it too. That would be beautiful.
100% live stream.
Yeah, you don't want me cheating over at the Gold Nugget. Okay.
Yeah, if Surefour gets sick or anything, I'm gonna send the cops directly to you for trying to get logics at easy playing.
God, yeah, the day I hurt Surefour is a cold day in hell. But anyway, that's my Canadian brethren right there. Anyway, so we have a lot. I mean, not that much Overwatch League stuff to talk about. It is in between weeks, the week 3 and 4. So for most platforms, you'll be in between your match right now. So any of the points you've accumulated are just going to be hopefully doing well for you going forward. But if you're playing in the most common match types, you're playing in best map on high noon, or you're playing on draft buff, which does average scores per match. So we'll just kind of give you a mid-match update today, talk to you about if there's anybody on your roster we think you should swap out if possible, and then look ahead at weeks 5 and 6. So before we get into the fantasy stuff, I like to open up our episode with just like a little bit of just kind of, I don't know, shop talk. Some fantasy industry discussion, and I've seen it brought up, especially on the Draft Buff Discord, because I know there, for their other games, they do a lot of averaging. So Call of Duty will average their maps, or average their score per map type. So, what do you guys think about Overwatch adopting that? If we did...
Heebie-Jeebie, I would answer you, but you never introduced me.
Oh.
So, without further introduction.
Yes. Okay, well... Alright, A. Smith's there. A. Smith exists, and Teoyama is also here. Tepojama, what up, my friend?
Hey, I'm okay with you not introducing us because I just feel like you were caught up in the Jerry hype and
yeah, well, yeah.
So much hype, he just forgot everything.
Yeah. Just introduce Jerry and we're good. I'm happy with that.
If someone's listening to this podcast and hasn't listened before, they already turned it off with this weird funeral bit I did, okay? So they already know you two dumb idiots that are on this podcast with me.
The waffles are really getting them.
Yeah, alright. Let's fishing rod reel us back in here to this really interesting deep discussion of shop talk that I was lifting.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about all control maps being average for a player, all 2CP maps average for a player, and then just those 4 added at the end of the week? What do you think about that?
Get that crap out of here. Get that crap out of here.
Get that crap out of here?
That's a
We do
lot.
enough averaging as it is. Like,
Okay.
Already,
Well, it
like
would avoid
averaging
situations. Okay.
I like averaging between games for sure because it just, it's really unfair otherwise.
Okay.
But in terms of averaging, like even by map, I think it gets to be too much. Like you should get rewarded for picking, having a player that is in competitive games.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, and longer games and such. Okay.
Yeah. Do we average players' points when they go into overtime? Like, do we do that in NBA? Do they do that in the in NFL? No, they don't average the touchdowns. They don't average all that crap. You go into overtime, that's extra money, yo.
Yeah. Okay. I all right. That makes sense. I was just gonna say, like, I mean, it kind of depends what the point of fantasy is, I guess. And To be fair, I agree with both of you. I agree with the sentiment. I just am trying to bring it up so that I don't look like an absolute brick for coming up with the idea of discussing it.
So they
you have
do
to do
that in
something
other
else.
games. They they'll choose a certain map type and then average those out and
Yeah.
combine.
So the way Call of Duty works is they will in any given Call of Duty match you will play at least one game of Search and Destroy, one game of Hardpoint, and one game of Domination, and with a chance to play one more Hardpoint and one more Search and Destroy. And then they will average. So if a person plays 6 Hardpoints in a weekend, also the Call of Duty League works on a tournament structure. So teams play a minimum of 2 games or a maximum of 5 games in a weekend. Which is really hard to do in terms of just like adding those scores together. You obviously can't, so you have to average.
So you're telling me Call of Duty is not just everybody kill each other?
No, it's not.
No, I heard you didn't mention Team Deathmatch. Where's Team Deathmatch, bro?
That's what I was wondering.
I want competitive ground war. No, unfortunately not. I actually also if anybody's interested in fantasy Call of Duty, I'd always like to talk about it because I actually am like very I love the CDL now. It's a really exciting format to watch. But and I honestly think their tournament structure would work so well for Overwatch. It would just have to be smaller tournaments. One, we have more teams. 2, games last longer in Overwatch. But I think the idea of like little weekend-based systems is so interesting. Yeah, I mean, yeah, blah 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 virus. But all right, screw map averaging. That sucks. Anyways, a little bit of housekeeping. Yeah, okay, go for it.
Just to say, like, I get it for the CDL because if you're playing five matches in a game, and each match is shorter in a weekend, then like, or if you're playing up to that, then it is good to average it out by more things, you know, rather than Overwatch League where if you're playing 2 maximum, like, you know, you're not going to have as many maps to deal with. So it's okay to average at like a smaller rate.
It's true. Also, that community is kind of already a little bit like indoctrinated into the idea of averaging just because like you have like that's such a big deal is looking at someone's average KD over a weekend.
Yeah.
Like that's already something like people are like recognizable. Yeah, seriously. I mean, I remember someone going into a rant about how someone was like 0.2 better than everyone else and that was like that's such a huge number and I was like, "Well, I guess it is." But it's not like recognizable to me.
Yeah,
it's huge. 0.02 wouldn't be that big.
Could you imagine if we all freaked out if like Saviobi had like 0.2 average elims?
Yeah, that's true.
It was like the end of the world.
One day, A. Smith, we will.
Yeah, once the stats are readily available.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're almost there. But in terms of if we should care about them. All right, but okay, enough with talking about structure and talking shop. I should have done that off air, obviously. But today, let's do just a little bit of housekeeping. The Seoul games have now been canceled. No updates to schedule thus far. So we're just moving along. More games are getting canceled. Obviously, the sickness is like a very real danger to more people than just China. Travel bans are starting to be put in place. Yeah, I don't know. The league's in a really weird spot. I think we have a couple options. League plays really long. Actually, let's talk about this for a second because I think it's interesting.
I have one question.
Yeah, go for it.
Does anybody else feel like they're playing Plague Inc?
Oh my god!
Like when coronavirus. I'm just saying.
Yeah. No, I mean,
like shutting down a country like
that game was banned in China.
Yeah, dude, hard ban.
Makes sense. But anyways, that's what it feels like though, with like travel bans and people can't go anywhere. And anyways,
I think that's more of a testament to how like realistic that game's design. Maybe I don't know. Anyway,
gaming.
So okay, League of Legends, the Chinese league is shut down, and then the Korean league recently got shut down as well. So they are currently not playing games. However, in lieu of its absence, the Chinese League of Legends is now broadcasting team scrims instead of actual matches. Do you think that Overwatch would benefit from something like that? And second question, do you think that teams would ever agree to that?
Yeah, I think depending on how long this goes and the fact that it could impact the European games as well, like we could see, London and Paris's games affected, depending on how things go. Um, I think, there will be such a long period that we don't see any of those Asian teams that are super popular. So they would benefit from having those players stream games. Like,
Mhm.
even if they just did like a tournament that doesn't count for much, but it's just like an online thing, it'd probably be good for the
Yeah.
league.
Fair enough. Okay. Last thing I have to say on it is, what better way to announce Season 4's next expansion team, the Chicago team, than a homestand before the team even exists, host the makeup games in Chicago, and I'll be there. I'll host it if you want me to, for free, I promise.
At Heebie-Jeebies apartment
Yeah,
right now.
Yeah.
I can fit barely this computer, so it may be tough, but we would
You
love
got
to
a
have
big computer.
I want to see a
have a
bunch of
small
like
apartment.
Koreans on laptops, like sitting there, like Indian style, just like.
Uber and Bren in my hallway casting.
Yeah.
I don't know why Uber and Bren are casting together.
Also
It's a
together,
real
like-
slapstick
It's a
weekend.
combo.
Yeah. Anyway, okay. So let's talk actual fantasy Overwatch. Well, actually, before that, never mind. Let's talk about the meta. Okay, so the meta of Overwatch League has been finally solidifying a little bit more, with a couple of teams being a little bit more rogue. Toronto or potentially New York sometimes. But anyway, last week we dove into the meta. We said hit scan better than projectile, flex support better than main, flex tank better than main tank.
That's because I wasn't here.
That's whatever.
Because
Anyway,
it's not true.
I think the tanks argument is very true, but that flex support, main support golf, as you put it, well done, Tepo, has shrunk very low, to the point where Funny Astro was like one of our best performers, was the best support performer last week. So, guys, talk to me about why this is even happening.
Hey, Smith, you want to take it if you feel strongly about it?
I feel very strongly that are we talking about the support or the DPS?
Support.
Or just
Yeah,
support?
up to you, honestly. It isn't super matter.
Support, well, I mean, strictly mainly because, I mean, you're going with a lot of Ana. And Ana doesn't have the same kind of damage output that Zen did, and that really is changing a lot of things.
Okay.
And Boop Gods. Boop God Lucio is back, and those environmental kills, you can get a lot of damage because they count as, if you boop like a full Reinhardt, you get full damage, right?
Yeah,
I
you're
think
right.
so.
Because you get the ult charge for it.
Yeah, so I would assume that would be counting in there. So I mean, you can end up racking up a bunch of points. There are a lot of environmental kills with these Lucios, and
Yeah.
I mean, look at players like FD God and Jessic. They're Jexe, whatever.
Yeah.
It's hard to say names. And anyways, so you're looking at players like that, and they're getting those. I think that's a big thing to do with the supports.
Yeah.
But Anna's really the pro. I mean, I think you throw Zen back in there, it flips.
Cool.
Yeah, and even for the Lucio players that aren't so boop heavy, like a guy like Funny Astro he's so good at surviving that he just gets value over time just for heals and just consistent output, and then you just see people like that just doing really well in fantasy. So yeah, until Zen is the meta, we're probably going to see supports ranked similarly across roles.
Cool. Oh, an exciting time to own some main supports. Maybe some of those sleepers you were throwing in, and hopefully Moth actually plays as opposed to Violet. So that would be a fun sleeper pick to have. All right, so let's talk about the actual fantasy numbers over this past week. Like I said, we're kind of in the middle of your matchups on either Draft Buff or High Noon. But let's talk about the week 4 in terms of leaders and feeders. So our leaders this week, we have yeah, I mean, okay, our DPS leader. Oh God, I can't do it. Somebody else do it.
Teo, why don't you take this? DPS?
Anyone else?
We know how thrilled he is.
I
Give it to us.
don't know if I could do it without cursing, but I'm gonna try really
Alright.
hard. So forgive me if I'm slow. Jerry, my guy, got the start and then played well enough to win the game, and just badly enough to play 7 max. So
yeah, he really tied some rocks to his
he,
feet.
he
Yeah,
just thought of his fantasy owners, the ones who believed in him through
he
through
pointed
eons.
directly at New York while playing.
Yeah.
It's like, this is for
I
you.
saw that glint in his eye, and he waved. He wasn't waving at the fans chanting his name. No, he was waving across borders straight to me, and he
Oh my
said, "I got
gosh.
you."
While I wasn't on the podcast, I was talking with Jerry, and he said he just caught himself in fantasy and said, "Forget this, guys. I am racking those points up."
That's hilarious. I hope players play fantasy and pick themselves. I think that's the funniest thing.
For sure.
All right.
But yeah, Jerry had 153.91 in high noon best match and 183.4 in draft buff, and I'm pretty sure both led the week. He also just popped off, and like it was good to see, especially after like I had foreshadowed a little bit that he might actually get to play soon because Mineral was saying that he could play very soon. I didn't think very soon meant this week, but this is a perfect time to do it against a Houston Outlaws team that 1 is bad and 2 is sick and 3 is really bad. So this was good to see.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. I mean, we're all excited for Jerry. All right, I'll talk about our tank.
His heart is just, you could hear the fragments.
We're
chipping.
all excited for Jerry, okay?
Yeah, we're all happy.
Super cool. Logic shot got a good snipe, all right?
Oh, Logic's didn't have a great time. All right, but I'll talk about the tank. Just another Boston Uprising player. These guys went so deep in that game. It's just going to net you a ton of points. But the surprise play was that Muffin was in instead of Brucin, was their other off tank option. Muffin got 128.96 in high new best match and 175 in draft buff. I think that gap is actually kind of important to talk about. I think so, since draft buff incorporates deaths into their scoring format, diva players are going to score a lot better on draft buff than they are high noon, just because a diva will oftentimes get out with her life. Just because of the booster cooldown, you have pilot. I know sometimes you get stalled forever, but sometimes you do able to get out in time. So alleviating those deaths is pretty huge.
Yep. I was shocked he played instead of Brucin, but that just shows, sometimes you don't know anything, so you can't make those guesses.
They are all out on the Europeans. Like, I mean, let's be real. You got Fusions, Brucin, and Cruz all sitting on the bench. Or no, Cruz isn't on that team. Sorry, but anyways, they're
it's definitely true for Fusions. Yeah.
Yeah, there's at least 2 European players on that team. All right.
And they are riding the pine.
A. Smith, talk about our tank leader.
Our tank, we just talked about the tank leader, but I will go on to the support leader, which is Funny Astro. The guy put up 149.03 in best in high noon and 152.32 on draft buff. That is very, very close to the same score, which is intriguing.
Intriguing.
Funny Astro, like, I think he just has a lot of damage output.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't just like straight go for the boobs. He just like throws in damage. I saw him like this weekend. I'm pretty sure I saw him like go on and headshot some people.
Yeah,
just like going off. He was like, he's
the one Lucio who actually can click heads. Like I was very confused by that. I'm watching that just thinking like, wow, my Lucio play is garbage. Like I feel like his gun does nothing, and here this guy is just like chipping away at people from deep. Yeah, no, he's really good, and Philly is just so good that he just benefits a lot. Like the team rarely loses fights, so Lucio rarely dies.
Philly's in the forefront here, I think, to be the best team in the league.
Oh yeah, they're done for it.
I don't think there's. I mean, we'll have to see Atlanta, but
Vancouver, dude.
I'm out on Vancouver.
I think it's San Fran and Philly.
Yeah, San Fran. Yeah.
All right. Well, speaking of guns that don't work, SabiLB is our DPS feeder of the week. The guy got 68.13 points in best match, 75.13 on draft buff. This is not at all the score that you want to see. New York as a whole did not score very well. I think they only played the one game. Not a good game. I don't know. Just pretty disappointing stat from a player. If they're going to get 100% playtime, you want that number to be a whole lot higher than 68.13.
Yeah. What kills me with SBB is the next day they played Houston and 3-0'd them,
Yeah.
and he played the entire time. And New York tweeted like, "Oh, just fan service, huh?" with a GIF of SBB, and like if playing him this weekend wasn't just fan service, and if playing Who Are You on May isn't just fan service or some sort of service, then what are they doing?
I know.
Because
Yeah.
SBB, like, I love the man. His tracer's like incredible. He's like great game sense, but his hit scan's not there. Like his McCree is not there, and his Widow's definitely not there. And it's rough to see because Nene should just be getting all that playing time.
Do they have the same coach as last year?
No.
No, they have a new coach.
See, and I wonder if that's what it is. The new coaching is poor decision. I don't understand why they're not maintaining their coaches, but that's another.
Well, they underperformed and they played too passively last season, so they tried to switch to like a more aggressive, or as Mono described it, like a flexible play style where they can be aggressive and expose things, which is also kind of weird because every team wants to be flexible in the league. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. Ideally, this play style will work if they just play the right people.
Yeah.
They won a lot of games last year to say, oh, we're gonna fire.
Yeah.
Like,
Who
I
knows?
get
Could be
coaching
it could be an
wow.
offer given to those coaches, and the coaches left on their own accord too, right? So we're
Yeah, that's
unaware of
possible.
these kind of things. Okay.
And then yeah, do we want to go to the related tank feeder
Probably
for this
the
past
best.
week?
Yes.
Why don't you take
Yeah. All right. Yeah, that would be Hotba, who scored 57.52 in best match and 68.34 in draft buff. And those are just really unideal scores for a flex tank who's playing Diva pretty much the entire time and playing the entire time.
Yeah.
Just another case of New York just being really, really bad against Philly. Like they were not impressive at all in that game, and then they beat Houston, but Houston went to 7 against Boston. So like it's that's not great to find out.
that. Do you think that how quickly they beat Houston didn't help the stats either?
It
Like they
definitely
just
did not.
they beat Houston so quickly that it couldn't help.
What's rough there is like you'd think if they're good enough to just demolish Houston, then they should be good enough to compete against Philly, but it never really felt like they were in the Philly game. Like they got one
Yeah.
map, but it felt fluky even that one map, you know?
Mhm.
So
This Blizzard
yeah,
World,
New
wasn't
York's
it?
in a weird spot.
Yeah.
Wasn't it Blizzard World they won? That map always
I
feels
forget.
fluky to me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, New York's looking strange. I hope it's just a blip on the radar. Like I hope this is just like a slight dip and they get back to like what we expect from New York form very soon. I mean, playing Philly's a tough opponent to face, so
Yeah. They could be a meta dependent team, which is weird because they have such a big DPS rotation, but it does feel like, if Tracer's back in meta, if Zen is back in meta, then they just get a huge upgrade.
yeah, fair enough. All right, I'll take the last one as support, and that is Repel. 79.20 and Heinen.gg and draft buff. He had 48.24. I mean, let's be real here. Houston is just flip flopping every map on DPS or on support on the main support.
flex support.
Flex support. Whatever. Stuff and
No doubt,
anyways,
no doubt.
Words and things.
I don't
Get
understand.
analyzed.
Does anybody understand what Harsh is doing?
No,
Why?
I don't think Harsha does. The team has no idea what they're doing.
Dude,
Flames,
I
like,
think
so
Harsha's
lost.
trying to hand out emergency those like little pills as much as he can and just tell his
Yeah,
players to freaking
just
stop
get
coughing
healthy.
on their keyboards.
But like, how is Linkser the only one who's like, no, I'm not that sick on Twitter, and he's the one that everybody's saying should play, but yet he doesn't play the hit scan.
Apparently, he's like one of the most sick. I think the tweet was like out and like basically like I don't know, just trying to take some pressure off of Blase or something.
That's very sweet.
But I've heard he's like super sick.
Okay.
So I don't know, man.
He
Jury's
actually has
out.
Coronavirus, so.
Oh God, I hope not, man.
But yeah, no, I
They're
definitely
traveling to so many cities.
Yeah.
the nightmare. I would want I wanted Dante to play the hit scan. So like, yeah,
Yeah.
and they just need to choose one flex support and stick with it.
Yeah.
Who is
But
their
what's
flex
weird
support,
is
though?
Repel or
between-
Raucous? Yeah.
yeah.
Oh no, I mean, yeah, but I mean, is Repel better? Like,
I have no
I
idea.
haven't seen
I think
enough
Raucous
to know.
has one more maps, but
No.
I don't think either is. Neither has obviously shown that they're better. And maybe Houston's just
Yeah.
treating this like the preseason, which is silly of them because that's what scrims are for. But neither has shown enough to be like, oh, this guy should definitely be starting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I hope this home crowd is able to wake them up, and hopefully they can turn a bit around. But okay, so now this is the part of the podcast where I apologize about something I did wrong. It's becoming a little bit of a segment on each episode. So this one is going to be about how the Foul Play 50 that I so lovingly asked you all to join last week did not exist on fantasyowl.com. That is my bad. I just airballed it, and that was not made. So, in terms of covering our daily fantasy content, one, the game's already made for this upcoming week, so go join on Saturday the
go.
Foul Play 50. Two, we have a team that Tebo, you had a team that you want to discuss for the daily fantasy, so go for it. Why don't you talk to me about this team?
Yeah. So this team would have won if we had a Foul Play 50 because it won every other league I was in. I
Wow.
had two teams on. I had
Unless
two
put in a
teams on
team.
Saturdays. That's possible, but you could have joined those other leagues. They had the same amount of people. And somehow I didn't have Jerry on this team, but that
I was
that's
interviewing Jerry. That's
pretty
why.
impressive. Yeah, he had Jerry occupied. But no. This team had XZ, Carpe, Myeonbong, Swimmer, Elivote, and Meko. So the cheapest were Swimmer at 12 and Myeonbong and Elivote at 16 apiece, and then I paid up for Carpe at 22. And I really just benefited from Boston going the distance and just having that support line. So I was pretty happy with that team. Having Swimmer, I named it Swimming with the Fishies.
Nice.
And I love that imagery. Swimmer, Carpe, it's really beautiful.
Yeah, no,
So
we get it.
this team
I'm
is
sure
dear to me.
Myeonbong is fish in another language as well.
It might be. And bongs have water in them, so fish,
You're
water,
right there.
Myeonbong.
Right there.
Checks
Fair
out.
enough.
So yeah.
Yeah,
Good
it looks like a
stuff.
good team. Looks like a good team. I think what happened was though, Josh, you just didn't make another one because I won the last one.
That is true.
And,
It was a lot of shame.
And he was like, I wasn't here to brag about it, but I'm just not gonna brag now. But I am because come on, guys.
Here's your chance. Yeah, no, that was great to see, and
Gotta
I'm
say
sorry
it.
that I ruined your plan by talking about my team anyway.
It's okay.
Now you just have to win next week.
I forgive you. I'm just gonna win every week from here on out. It's just
Let's
what's
go.
gonna happen.
Well, not if I
If you
keep
lose, you don't
forgetting to
stand
make
a
the
chance.
games. Gotta stop you from winning somehow. All right, so that'll do it for our daily contest this last week. But let's talk about this upcoming week. So if you're in the middle of your matchups right now, you won't be able to switch out any players who have scored your points. But if you have players that are sitting there with a net zero, you are able to swap them around. So let's talk about some money matchups this upcoming week. I'll just go through them and then we can talk about them any that we want to talk about. So first up, we have Toronto, which is looking like a good team, like maybe a team that can kind of punch up above their weight, like to competition, versus Atlanta, who we have yet to see yet, but is coming in with a ton of preseason hype, like people throwing them as like number one in their power rankings kind of hype. Then we have London versus Florida. I think London's proving to be a little bit more of a mid-table team than such a low-tier team. So them versus Florida could net you a decent amount of points. I don't think it'll be a blowout either way. And then lastly, we have Florida versus New York. I think this is a little bit more of a coin flip in terms of good or bad match. But anyway, those are our money matchups. So guys, talk to me. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What do you think about these games?
My main disagreement would be the Toronto versus Atlanta one. I mean we haven't seen Atlanta, so it's hard to disagree. But just off paper alone, Atlanta looks so strong, and Toronto hasn't looked amazing by any chance. I mean, they look okay. They look upper mid table.
Yeah.
But
I mean, that game against Philly and them, like,
Yeah,
that was like
that-
seconds away from going into Toronto's camp. Like, this is
one kind
that's
of sold me
pretty
on that.
good.
When they play Surefour, they play well.
Yeah.
And
yeah, but they don't play Surefour all the time. And
Okay,
that's
fair,
my
yeah, fair.
he got 4 straight maps.
Yeah.
They throw a map every
throw the
and
first map
it's
each
hard
time.
to win when you keep throwing maps.
All right, full disclosure, I paid the Defiant a horrible amount of money to get Logic some playtime. I gotta compete, all right?
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
Just
No,
a traitor to Canada. It's
That's
not
true.
right.
I do see what you mean. I think Atlanta is like this. Honestly, the beast on the other side of the wall that you can't see yet. They're terrifying. But oh man, I think it'll at least be competitive. There's no way this is a 3-0. There's no way.
There's a great
You say
chance that this
that.
Atlanta tank line has been just gassed up, and it turns out they're not a beast on the other side of the wall. They're the Kool-Aid man, and when they get here, they get juiced.
Oh yeah.
All right, I can't talk about that team anymore. We gotta pick a different team.
I was thinking like Stranger Things, and then we went Kool-Aid Man, and I'm like, I don't know where we're at now.
Surprise.
Oh man. Okay.
All right. There was one that I disagreed with before. And
is it London
now
versus Florida?
It is.
Yeah.
So there used to be a note on that part of our show notes, just a peek behind the curtain from me that said, I don't know, Florida might smack London. But now I really don't know.
Yeah.
I do think Florida is actually good, but I don't think the London game against the Justice was a fluke because the Justice were sick. Like the Justice were healthy enough to win the first 2 maps, and then London popped off. And I think the Cleston JMac backline or front line is working better than it was with Bernard. Honestly, because I thought Bernard was feeding a bit. I don't know.
I disagree with you.
That's another.
Another
conversation.
I think Bernard's back in this week. I think he was sick allegedly, so I'm pretty confident Bernard's back.
Cleston played well. Cleston seemed like he had better synergy with JMac, and that just gave the DPS more room. They played Shui over Babel as well.
Yeah,
which was interesting.
So much better.
I don't know, like it could just be synergy with them, but the team as a whole, they just seemed like they were really in sync this past week, and that just allows Glister to carry some more. So, yeah, I like this lineup for them. And they could actually take it further against Florida than I otherwise thought.
Oh, I think it's entirely possible. I think London might end up being better than Florida when it's all said and done. But my problem is the third match is Florida versus New York, and I know, but peek behind the curtain. New York sucks.
Do you want me just to put the notes on the stream? Like, should I just?
Yes, we gotta put the whiteboard up. No, we need the permanent marker whiteboard there.
We do. I mean, we're just one step away from being, Brennan Sideshow with the whiteboard. So we're almost there, guys. No, but I mean, I think New York keeps screwing up with their DPS, and if they continue to roll out, I won't say incompetent DPS, but in this meta, it kind of is incompetent DPS.
Sure.
For their team line, and if they continue to roll that out, I think Florida has a chance to catch them, and if that's, I mean, it seems like a strong possibility that could happen. If I'm going to bet on because when you're probably looking at Vegas odds, which we obviously don't have because we're not there yet. But if Vegas odds were there, obviously the odds would be in New York's favor, and that would be one where you can bet the underdog and really end up making some money because Florida look like they can end up being really good.
I think Yaki will put his foot on Who Are You's neck. I think he's
that's what I think is weird. Is honestly like the Yaki BQB DPS duo is better than I think every New York DPS duo we've seen so far because they haven't played what I think is probably their best duo for this meta, which would be Nene and Libero.
Yeah,
Libero is a great projectile, super flexible. He's like this quirky. He's got a quirky play style, which is perfect for May with those walls. He's always been kind of like an inventive player, and May is literally inventive with those. The things she puts up there.
But to be fair, we score crap in fantasy anyways. So
Yeah, but that's okay. That's because he wasn't that good at a lot. A lot of characters require you to click and not just be inventive.
True.
But I think he'd be good for May, and I think Nene is just so much better on McCree or Widowmaker than anybody else on the roster.
Is New York seriously regretting Pine? Having Pine retire in the meta where he would have been. Like, this is his meta.
Yeah, but Pine, even on his like amazing heroes, he's so inconsistent that his floor just isn't worth the ceiling.
Fair
Like
enough.
Nene is just a better version of Pine, and they're still not playing him, so Pine would still be doing like karaoke instead of playing, even if he was on the team.
Good karaoke, dude. All right. Well, let's stop talking about actual Overwatch and get back into fantasy. Uh, let's do our sleepers for this
Segue.
upcoming week.
Pro
Yeah.
segue.
I don't get paid for this. All right, so our
Peek
sleepers of this
behind the
upcoming week.
curtain. Look under the hood.
Peek behind the curtain. I'm broke. All right. So my DPS sleeper of the week. Very easy to pick this one. I picked Sharp of the Atlanta Reign. It's worth 13 points on daily platforms. So he is available as per our rule of 13 and lower.
Edison's playing 100% of the time.
Eh.
0. I'm just kidding.
I don't think Edison sees play on McCree. Well, maybe we'll see. Honestly, I have no idea. But I think the coin flip's worth it for me to put him on my sleepers category.
Fair enough. I also had a coin flip in Babel because I think Babel is better than Shui, and I think I don't know, but I mean if he's only worth 9 points, so if you really gonna take a gamble there, you can really stack the rest of your roster with higher point people with a 9-pointer. So it's entirely possible there that and London's playing misplaced my roster, but they're playing a couple of matches that I think they're going to be close. Oh yeah, they're both
Florida.
They're playing Florida, and that should be a closer game. So you end up seeing a Florida, that has 7 map potential. Okay, it doesn't have 7, but it has like 5 map potential.
Are they playing Houston too?
Potential. As if that would ever happen.
Jerry. I'm pumped about him now.
Jerry comes from the rafters to play.
Mission Impossible's in.
Boston somehow beats the Fusion this week. Can you imagine the chaos?
I will buy tinfoil shoes.
We might have to. No, there's no way. But
I'll start filling out the paperwork to legally adopt Jerry. I will be my son.
No, he belongs to the people and himself. Individualization, sure, but also to the people.
The people own Jerry. Okay.
Oh, capitalism! It is such a good moniker.
The stocks have risen too high.
All right.
Stonks. It's stonks.
Yeah, it's esports, so it's stonks.
For my DPS sleeper, honestly, this isn't a week where I'm super excited by the sleepers. I feel like this is another one of those weeks where you kind of want to just get a bunch of mid-tier players without spending too much at the high end. But there are fun gambles, and I think BQB is a safer gamble than some of the others. He costs 12, which isn't too bad, and he's guaranteed playtime. He's not guaranteed 100% of the playtime because Saya player is a nasty Widowmaker, but he plays the majority of the maps, and he's actually looked really good this season. So considering we've spoken about his team and 2 of our potential 5 mappers or our money matchups,
call them what they are.
He's got there we go. He's got a good chance to play more maps than other people, even if he's not playing 100% of his team's maps.
Has anybody seen Saya players McCree by chance?
I don't understand.
I would think it would be good because
exactly
he heads on McCree
he was a robot designed to play Widowmaker. Nothing else.
I think Saya player is one of those people who just like really enjoys something and hates doing everything else. Like Carpe really enjoys just popping off. He really did not enjoy Zarya, So I think
Saya player enjoys Duck Hunt.
Yeah, he just because his Widow is absurd, but for some reason his McCree actually looks worse than BQB's when he's forced onto it.
Yeah. God forbid BQB could just be good too.
Yeah, that's true. It's possible,
but BQB's Widow looks much worse than Saya's. It's weird.
Significantly. So, does Carpe hate Zarya as much as Dr. Disrespect? Dr. Disrespect.
I don't think, yeah, not
Just
quite as much.
anybody.
Well, he definitely understands her more, so maybe he hates like Doctor Disrespect does think she's a round thing with a flamethrower. So
It's
I don't know.
fair.
It's hard to know. Do you hate the boogeyman more than you hate taxes? You know, it's hard. It's
Nope,
hard to be
nope,
sure.
taxes more.
Yeah. So then Carpe, I think Carpe treats
But does anybody
Zarya like
understand
people treat
taxes either?
taxes. I don't think Carpe. Yeah, I guess not.
All right.
All right, our support
How about
sleepers
support
of the week.
Sleepers.
All right. I chose Raucus. He's worth 12 points. I hope he plays, and I think that Houston will do good this weekend. I don't think they will. I am praying that Houston does well this weekend. Honestly, I really hope that this is the week that they turn it around. And I think if they do, Flex Support's going to score naturally a lot of points. So that's why I got Raucus here as my sleeper for a 12.
Who do you think they will play well against, London or Toronto?
I'm hoping London. I am hoping
Okay.
they find something against London, but I don't know.
Yeah, and I'll jump right on that because I have Raucus too.
Jeske will just be in Glister's face the whole game.
As long as J-Mac just continues to throw himself off the map, they might be okay.
Come on!
Whatever Sexy Jexy is costing this week, he's definitely a great bet.
This is the first time that we're gonna get like, ooh, there's London's gonna throw for money. Like Flame's gonna be with a briefcase in front of Pavane and be like, glad you came. Click.
Winning.
So I have the same pick as Heaves, but my rationale I think is a lot more incisive. And my rationale for why I'm incisive, yeah, it's a word. I could Google that.
Just continue.
But anyway, I'm not sure that's the right way to use it. I don't think it is, but it will be. It's cutting analysis. I'm pretty sure Houston tweeted something about Finland. So I think that means that
this is what you quantify as better analysis. They tweeted something about Finland.
I'm pretty sure something to do with Houston said something to do with Finland.
Yes.
Linkser, they played Linkser or they played Dante on hit scan instead of Blase. And I think they play better this weekend. Honestly, the support options are horrible, so Raucus is the best I could do.
We're scraping the bottom of the barrel. Ace, but talk to me about yours.
I'm taking Byram here. Look, I fully believe Gangenjim is better, but Florida obviously played Byram, so
yeah, that was weird. I didn't like that.
What do I know? Obviously not enough about Overwatch because these coaches are making brilliant decisions.
Next level.
Yeah, I think
I'm starting to think I might be a better coach than some of these guys. Like I'm like, can we just not make a good roster?
Wait, we're actual sports now. I'm a better coach.
I'm a better coach.
All right.
Yeah, I think.
If Byron plays, I think he's going to end up scoring because he'll at least play the whole time.
Yeah,
I think.
I don't even know if he will.
I don't think that's guaranteed.
I think the moral of this story is that you should just ignore the 13-point cutoff for sleepers at support for this week and just get like some main support in that like 15 range because it'll be a lot better.
Yeah, you should never be budgeting in your supports. I think that's just like it's a pretty bad call. Okay, my tank sleeper of the week. I have Carry On, one item. He's only worth 10 points this week. He's a main tank for the Florida Mayhem. Fate, I haven't seen him touch the stage yet. Am I wrong?
Yes. Yeah, they played a double main main tanks.
Okay.
Which hurts Gargoyle but doesn't harm Karayan.
Yeah.
Yeah, he never.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I still got 2 feet to stand on. I think he's good. And he's.
Oh, that's low. That's a low blow. Come on.
Yeah. Sorry. Also. I forgot your leg sucks. Anyway.
Your leg sucks. Is that what we're gonna say? Your leg sucks. My bad.
Anyway, that's my sleeper. He's also only worth 10 points, so I win the budgeting battle of today.
Let's
go.
I will say I had a 9-pointer. But...
Oh, yep, that is true. I will say I got second place.
Second place is first place loser, just so you know.
Welcome to America.
Yeah.
Moving on.
when I go to the dollar store, I buy something for $1, not for 50 cents. So my tank sleeper is Cleston, who costs a full 2 points higher at 12. But yeah, he got all of the playtime for the Spitfire last week, and they looked more competitive. So I think if he continues to do so, he's actually a huge steal at only 12 points, 12 whatever salary thing we have here, whatever the
Yeah.
currency is.
Yeah, I don't know if we decide. I think it's level. I think it's level.
Level.
On
Level
12
FOWL.
level.
12
Well,
level.
here's the deal. When I go to the dollar store, I don't spend 99 cents. I spend the full $1. So
I'm a libertarian. We don't have
I'm
taxes.
I'm taking Ben Best. Amen to no taxes, but I'm taking Ben Best at 13 points here. Main tank, he plays the entire time because he has a good Reinhardt, and that's what the meta is. And Paris, I believe they're playing Atlanta, and so that's the risky. If it does end up being close and Atlanta is not quite as good as we thought, then you could have a good point matchup there, and you're getting guaranteed 100% playtime. So
It's true.
it's not bad.
Yeah, no, I like that one. You can only use it on one day, but it definitely could net a lot of points in that one day. Just because I think Paris has looked really good, especially with Hanbin playing the diva. They look like a real team, and they're super confident right now.
That's true.
Look,
Good
No
picks.
Smite was amazing. What are you talking about?
Nosemity. All right. Okay, cool. So those are our sleepers. I think we'll skip Game of the Week segment today just because we've been going quite a bit longer. You guys have gotten plenty of good fantasy content. We'll have, this will be a little teaser. We're going to have Who It Gonna Be coming up next week as our Game of the Week. But very excited to do that. Let's jump into our mailbag. Totally Drunk, thank you very much. I think everybody listening to this show already knows who he is. Asked, based on their performances, do you think that Alarm/Funny Astro are the strongest support backline we've seen in Fantasy Overwatch League to date? My opinion is yes. I think these guys are huge. I think if Funny Astro is outscoring Alarm, that already is putting them into that category.
Yeah, he's not consistently outscoring Alarm. Alarm's still, I think, the better play here.
Sure, but the fact that he can makes them one of the best scoring duos ever.
I think it's not even in contention right now. I mean, I think when you see Massa and Dogman, it's a possibility that could end up being up there.
They're both going to be on different flanks, and freaking Edison's going to be behind the Rhine shield like, where are my healers?
It could be really interesting. So we'll see, but right now I think it's clear and obvious that Philly has the strongest. Not only do they have the strongest team, but they have the strongest support lineup, which usually leads to the strongest team.
Yeah. My issue is it's the strongest support backline we've seen in Fantasy Overwatch League to date, and I'm not sure we can say they're the best ever. They are scoring really well right now, even though the flex support numbers are down because Lucio numbers are up. So the Ana's down, but Violet Moth come to mind as a really strong.
Yeah, if they were played
last season. So yeah, I think pretty obviously Alarm, Funny Astro are the strongest right now because their team just looks the best right now. But
I would put Moth and Violet as second though. Like I do think I think they defeat Moth Violet for me.
But in history?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Even though they've had a few games, but I don't know.
Early to tell.
There's also like Shaz Big Goose is huge. Like for just looking at
Big Goose hasn't ever scored that well in fantasy
compared to other main supports. He scored well,
but not any of the ones we've mentioned so far.
Season 1 he scored pretty well.
That's because it's been 2 weeks. I mean, it's been 3 weeks.
All right.
I mean, and also like I have a question, just a hypothetical question here.
Okay. Shoot.
Instead of Funny Astro, if they still had,
Neptuno.
If they still had Neptuno, do you think it would be any different? Because I actually don't think it would.
Yeah, I think it would be. I don't think Neptuno's Lucio is as good as Funny Astro's. I think this is like the perfect meta right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I literally have no clue. I'm not smart enough. I don't know. I have smooth brain.
Like, if you look at it, would be really interesting to look at the numbers, and we honestly could do it. Maybe I'll take a gander at some point, not right now because it'll take some time.
Yes.
But I'm wondering if the the carry of the Zen scoring for Violet was enough to offset how much more Lucio scoring as Funny Astro in this meta versus when Moth was playing that sort of like more passive Lucio or a Mercy.
Yeah.
That's a good point. All right. Well,
Yeah.
thanks for sending in that question, Toto. That was really cool. Thank you for
Appreciate it.
sparking that discussion. If guys, if you ever want to submit a question for us to answer on air, make sure you do that either by adding us on Twitter at HNP_FOWLplay or in the Discord on the High Noon Podcast Discord. We have a fantasy mailbag channel, so make sure to do that. Thank you so much for listening to episode 50. It's been really cool that we hit that benchmark, the flagship show hitting 200 episodes. Cranking out that content. Sorry again that this episode is so late in the week. Just getting all three of us together to do something like this does take a lot of planning and stuff. So hopefully things will change up in the future.
Stats drop on Tuesday. So
and stats drop on Tuesday, so we're kind of handcuffed a little bit. But thanks for joining with us. I mean, if you're playing fantasy, you're feeling those same struggles as we are. So thanks for hanging out with us, guys, and we'll see you for episode 51 next week. Bye bye.
See you.